Today, we're going to take a look at VITALY LALETIN versus KAMIL JABLONSKI on the left arm at King of the Table 11. This match ended up being pretty surprising to me. I was thinking of KAMIL as the pretty heavy favorite going into this just because of the style match. I did think that VITALY could win if he was able to prevent KAMIL from slipping, but if the match did go to straps, I was thinking KAMIL would be the heavy favorite just because VITALY's arm is so long. He has such terrible leverages to go up against someone who's a flop presser. He's much more so built to take hand control, but if he's just gifted hand control, then most of his strengths aren't really going to become that useful in the match. But upon the very first ready go that we actually get a pin in this match, it's not taken back on fouls, VITALY is able to flash pin KAMIL. And I think what he's doing is extremely interesting here. Firstly, VITALY's reaction time is really good. This is probably the first frame where VITALY is moving. You can see 1, 2, 3. And this is where KAMIL really starts to actually push. This is where he starts to commit his shoulder at all. So VITALY, maybe even 4 frames, is moving significantly quicker. He's reacting quicker to that go. But he's doing 2 things to block KAMIL's shoulder press. And what he's doing firstly that I think is maybe the most effective is he is controlling KAMIL's pronator. So on the go of the match, you can see that he is cupping down and sideways. He does a good job of getting his knuckles pretty high. KAMIL is in this kind of low, sort of already underneath grip here, and VITALY is immediately cupping down into the side. So he's controlling KAMIL's pronator. And if you've never tried to flop press before, maybe you don't know that having your pronation is really important for a flop press. If someone takes your pronation from you and turns you palm up, it makes it kind of impossible to flop press. You can't really push down anymore because you're already underneath. So pretty much immediately what VITALY has done is he's taken away all of KAMIL's options. He can't really flop press anymore. He would have to do some sort of kind of underneath Todd Hutchings top roll type of thing. And that's not really KAMIL's move. So basically VITALY is faster. He's cupping down. He's removing KAMIL's ability to get behind his arm. And he's bumping him off his shoulder sideways all at the same time. And we can see this here in the slow motion replay. You can see him cupping down, going sideways, and reacting faster all at the same time. And you can see that KAMIL tries to dive into his press, but his hand is already outside of his shoulder, so this isn't really going to do anything for him. Now, this second go is extremely impressive to me, and this is when I kind of realized, okay, VITALY might just be a little bit too strong here. And this is because KAMIL actually goes, VITALY pretty much just waits and catches, and KAMIL is totally able to hit his position. And after that, VITALY just rocks back and pins him. This was pretty crazy. This is normally what would be considered the exact opposite of what you would want to do against a flop presser, especially if you're someone with a longer arm like VITALY LALETIN, but he basically just top rolled the flop presser. This is never what you would want to do stylistically, technically speaking, but it worked very well, and it was so impressive to me because KAMIL's shoulder is totally in there. He's totally blocking, and VITALY's arm angle is facing his own pin pad. KAMIL has isolated VITALY's elbow flexor, and he literally just leans back. There's quite a bit of side pressure in here, but maybe the majority of it, a lot of this pressure is just straight elbow flexion from VITALY, and he's able to just rock him all the way down to the pin pad there. But in the third round, everything begins to change just a little bit, because in that second round, he more so just hit for position to get his shoulder behind him. But in this round, he really hits a lot more straight down. And what that does is you can see that VITALY's elbow flexor gets a lot more separated than it was before. And this time, he's much more close to the pin pad, and when VITALY attempts to rock back, instead of lifting KAMIL's hand, instead of taking him all the way to the side of the table, more so he just opens his own elbow flexor angle, and from here, this is going to be just about impossible for VITALY to do anything. His elbow flexor angle is gone. So partly I think that was just because KAMIL was able to hit more so down upon the go of the match. Another thing you can see is that he actually times the go a little bit better. He probably reacts better in this round. VITALY is not able to cup down and sideways. He's not able to cup over the top of KAMIL like he was in the first rounds, but also what could be happening is that VITALY's elbow flexor is beginning to gas out at this point. So this is where I thought things might be turning just a little bit in the favor of KAMIL, because stylistically speaking, in terms of efficiency, this match is heavily in the favor of KAMIL because KAMIL's press is not really going to get tired. He's relying on his frame, his bone structure, whereas VITALY is just going to be forced to heavily rely on this elbow flexor. And in this round, it really got stretched out quite a bit, so you would expect that in the following rounds, it's going to be easier for KAMIL to do something. But unfortunately for KAMIL, this one comes back on fouls, and I'm not exactly sure what the foul was that they called. It may have been hand contact with KAMIL's head or his shoulder or something like that. But this ends up coming back, and on the restart of the match, VITALY ends up taking this one once again. So the score is now 3-0, and it looks like KAMIL thought VITALY went early maybe, but also you can see that VITALY is able to take center much more so, and once again, he is able to cup down, he's able to get his wrist very bent in the offensive position. So VITALY's elbow flexor is not anywhere near as exposed as it was before, and this leads to him getting this pin. Although it looks like KAMIL wasn't really trying super hard there. I think maybe he thought the match was going to come back, that he was slided in some sort of way, but this one ends up going to VITALY. And you can see the replay here. This round looks much more like the first rounds. Not quite as dominant for VITALY, but you can see him cupping KAMIL downward right there, isolating that pronator, and his elbow flexor is not getting exposed. Then he has the ability to drive down and sideways, keeping that elbow flexor angle tight throughout the duration of this move. So now the score is 3-0 in favor of VITALY, and it's interesting because KAMIL has had multiple moments throughout this match where he was able to get on VITALY's bicep, and he looked really, really good, but every single one of those times it always came back because of some sort of foul, a false start, whatever it was. So the score is 3-0, but this match is still very close, and it could have gone either way from this position. But as we know, unfortunately, this last round, multiple people have false starts, and what ends up happening is KAMIL just false starts one more time, and this is his third and final foul, so he loses this entire super match on fouls. So you hate to see something like this end that way. I think probably at some point they will run this match back, because I do think that it's much more so about who gets to their position first, and I think that either person could have won this match potentially if they just reacted slightly faster. Now in the last couple rounds, KAMIL does end up winning. I don't know how much stock I put into this. Obviously VITALY is going to get more and more gassed out as time goes on because he is on his elbow flexor. KAMIL just has a more efficient style, but also now that VITALY has officially won the super match 4-0, I don't know how much effort he's even putting in here. This last round is a little bit different because VITALY probably doesn't have as much heart in the match since he's already won. So let me know what you guys thought about this match. I was super impressed with VITALY. I did think that KAMIL was the favorite in this match because of the style, and somehow, even though VITALY has super long arms, he's a super tall person, you would think that this match was just about impossible for him stylistically. He was able to top roll a flop presser, which to me was just super impressive, and I think VITALY's stock went up heavily in my mind on the left arm. So I'd love to see VITALY compete for the #1 spot in arm wrestling left-handed against Artem Warzinski, and as for KAMIL, I think that he'll continue to improve, and I'm sure he'll get another shot at this match at some point in the future.